Well, thank you very much. And what a pleasure to be in a rather dim basement on the first sunny day of the year. Um, but anyway, um, my name is Peter Flint. I'm a partner in a law firm called Volterra Fietta. We are not a huge law firm, and we are very narrowly focused on what is called public international law, which is really the law of international relations and international transactions. We are very much involved in the mining sector and in mining companies from all parts of the world, from Toronto to Sydney, um, in assisting mining companies who are doing projects cross-border in jurisdictions which are not always as reliable as people would hope. Let me go on. I've only got 20 minutes left to deal with what is a huge area of international law, but 25. Thank you. So, what are we looking at? What are the issues and what are the solutions? Well, the issues are that nowadays, given that most of the very productive mining sites in reasonably stable countries have been either exhausted or they've been completely stitched up by very huge companies. And so smaller and junior miners are looking to invest their projects in less stable environments. And the issues are that governments change policies, public opinion changes, environmentalist opinion changes, and miners need to be aware, well, I'm sure you all are aware of the issues, aware of the ways in which you can protect your investments, your projects, and your profitability. The solutions lie in international law, and there's lots of it. Bilateral investment treaties, multilateral investment treaties, regional free trade agreements, host state domestic inward investment protection. You need to know what it is that you can rely on before you go into a new country. And that's what we know quite a lot about. I think I've just covered that slide, actually. Politics and resource nationalism. I mean, that is an interesting subject because there is a tendency on the part of politicians who are hoping either to maintain their supremacy over their countries, or those who would like to take the job, that there is a tendency to talk a lot about how foreign mining companies are stealing the country's birthright. This happens over and over again, and there are protections against it. Armed insurrection, well, there are legal protections against that, not necessarily practical or physical ones, um, which we can offer. Um, bilateral and multilateral investment treaties, what are they? They are agreements between states for the protection of commercial cross-border investments. They provide a variety of protections to people who qualify as investors under the treaties. And the protections which they offer are the protection of fair and equitable treatment, a protection against expropriation, and a number of other protections. How do they protect against these things, against abuse of treaty protections? Well, bilateral investment treaties, multilateral investment agreements, all refer disputes between investors from abroad and the host state to international arbitration in various venues, more often than not, to an organization called ICSID, which is the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, which is based in, well, which is part of the World Bank. And it's based in Washington, D.C., but it isn't an American organization. It is a genuinely international organization. And these disputes can go elsewhere for resolution. And different treaties say different things. There are also regional free trade and investment protection agreements all over the world, which are not really well appreciated by those who are doing cross-border business. On the slide, I've given you a number of them. They all say pretty much the same thing, and they're all like multinational investment treaties, and provide for non-domestic dispute resolution, which means that if you're in Kyrgyzstan, you can rely on these international agreements to get your disputes decided elsewhere than in the Kyrgyzstan national courts. There is a very interesting multinational, actually multi-regional agreement, which has been half agreed in sub-Saharan Africa, called the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which will, in due course, provide for a large number of remedies for mining companies and others doing business in Africa. It lacks one thing at the moment, which is a dispute resolution provision. But that is currently under discussion, and it's hoped that that will shortly be agreed. State, yeah, I mean, state domestic inward investment protection. I mean, I can do this quite shortly. Very similar to the provisions of a bilateral investment treaty. So the same protections. Some of them, not all of them, provide for dispute resolution outside of the country in international arbitration, which is always helpful. Some of them you need to be careful. Some of them require a pre-authorization for the investment before the domestic inward investment protection will kick in. There you go. I mean, it's a complex area of international law. Everyone needs to be aware of it. Everyone needs to be aware of the formalities which may need to be completed before your project will get local investment protection.